In the shadows of the towering skyscrapers of New York City lies a place often forgotten, a labyrinth of stories untold. This is where LaShawn's life unfolded, in the worn-down apartments of a project complex in the heart of the ghetto. She was a girl molded by the harsh realities of her environment, where every day was a battle for survival. LaShawn was born to a single mother who turned tricks to keep the lights on. Her father had disappeared long before she could remember, leaving a void filled by the chaotic streets of New York. The project buildings, with their graffiti-covered walls and broken elevators, were her playground. From a young age, LaShawn learned that trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. The sounds of sirens and distant gunfire were her lullabies. Her older brother, Roscoe, was her only protector. But even he fell victim to the streets, ending up behind bars before LaShawn turned 12. "Roscoe, you promise you'll come back, right?" she asked, her young voice tinged with desperation as she clung to his shirt the day he was taken away. "I promise, little sis," Roscoe said. "Just remember to keep your head up and your eyes open." "These streets ain't kind," he replied, his voice heavy with the weight of the world. As a teenager, LaShawn discovered a harsh reality. To survive, she needed to be smarter than those around her. She developed a talent for playing the 50, a term her brother had taught her before his incarceration. It meant getting close to people she hated, pretending to be their friend, only to betray them when the moment was right. Her beauty became her weapon. She would charm girls she disliked, ingratiate herself into their circles, and seduce their boyfriends. It was a game to her, a survival tactic in a world that offered her little. "LaShawn, you coming to the party tonight?" Sarah asked, her supposed friend, blissfully ignorant. "Of course, girl. You know I wouldn't miss it for the world," LaShawn replied, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. By the time she was 18, LaShawn had a reputation throughout the city that never sleeps. She was both feared and admired. She moved between circles with ease, her disarming smile hiding the calculating mind that lay beneath. She set up drug dealers to be robbed, sometimes even killed. Each successful setup added to her infamy and her wealth. Her new boyfriend, Trey, asked one night after they made out in his car, "How do you do it, LaShawn?" "Do what?" she replied, feigning innocence. "What I mean is, how do you get so many people to trust you, even when they shouldn't?" Trey clarified. "You just gotta know what they want, baby," LaShawn responded seductively, "and give them just enough to make them think they're getting what they want," she said, planting a kiss on his neck, ensuring his thoughts wouldn't stray to suspicion. One of her most significant conflicts was with Tasha, another girl from the projects who was not just a rival, but also a threat. Tasha had connections and the ambition to take LaShawn down. Their rivalry came to a head one summer night in a packed club, a confrontation that left them both bruised and bloodied, but with LaShawn's reputation intact. Tasha, taunting LaShawn, said, "You think you can just take what's mine?" LaShawn answered, saying, "He's not yours if I can take him." With her mouth full of blood, Tasha responded, "One day, LaShawn, you're gonna get what's coming to you." "I'll take my chances, bitch," LaShawn replied, turning on her heel and sauntering away, leaving a fuming Tasha behind, holding her swelled, busted lips. That arrogance led her to make a fatal mistake. There was a new drug dealer in town, Marcus, who was not like the others. He was smarter, more ruthless, and he had powerful connections. Despite warnings, LaShawn targeted Marcus. She set him up, but things went terribly wrong. Marcus made it out of the robbery attempt unscathed, and he knew who was behind it. The realization dawned too late for LaShawn, who found herself on the wrong side of a man who played the game better than she did. Marcus said in a threatening tone, "LaShawn, you have no idea who you're messing with." LaShawn responded, "I've handled bigger fish than you, Marcus." She replied, trying to sound confident, but failing to hide the quiver in her voice. "We'll see about that," he said, a menacing smile spreading across his face. The consequences were swift and brutal. Marcus's men caught her off guard, and the punishment was severe. LaShawn, being used to fighting growing up, never sought medical attention. She dealt with the pain alone and did her best to nurse her own wounds. She was beaten, humiliated, and left with a message that resonated through the projects. LaShawn was no longer invincible. Her reputation shattered. LaShawn struggled to regain her footing. Her former allies turned their backs, and she was left to navigate the dangerous streets alone. In her final days, she reflected on her choices, the lives she had ruined, and the price she had paid for her ambition. "This ain't how I thought it would end," LaShawn whispered to herself, sitting alone on a cold stoop, her body aching from the beating. "You play the game long enough, it plays you," an old woman passing by muttered, giving LaShawn a knowing look. In the end, LaShawn's life was a cautionary tale, a story of survival and betrayal. In a world that had given her few options, her life faded into the background, and untreated injuries suffered from Marcus's crew some years later caused LaShawn's demise, and was a reminder of the consequences of playing the dangerous game of deception and power. The projects in New York City moved on, her story becoming part of the whispered legends that shaped the lives of those who remained. LaShawn had lived and thrived in the ghetto, but in the end, she paid the ultimate price for her choices. If you like these short stories, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay in the loop, to be notified when we release a new video every first Tuesday of the month.